Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Every so often I get a piece in for review that I find in equal parts fantastic and frustrating. And this CRONOS SM300 is one such watch. Let me give you a couple of examples. It's a homage, which I know is not everyone's cup of tea, but it's a homage of an Omega, not a Rolex, and one that is rarely seen in the wild. It is one of the best built, best constructed watches that I have had the pleasure of reviewing on the channel for less than $200, and I've reviewed a ton of watches at that price, so I think that means something. And yet it feels unfinished, it feels semi-sterile, like they didn't quite see the job through to its conclusion. The lume is also amazing for a $200 watch, but the logo, oh, the logo. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Now I assume you saw the pop-up, but I'm going to play the siren anyway because you might not believe it. This is a sponsored video. This video is sponsored by the LGY watch store on AliExpress. They sent me this watch for free. I do not have to send it back. I will leave links to the listing for this watch in their store in the description of the video. $200 US, less a $10 voucher, shipped by FedEx by the way, so you're not waiting 5 to 6 weeks or more as is the usual way with Ali. Available in blue dial or black dial. Also available in sterile dial, either blue or black if you just can't handle the logo. And it's a great watch for that money, don't get me wrong. I just think with a few tweaks it could have been an absolutely sensational watch for the money. Now Lugio, LGY, San Martin, CRONOS, 54 watches, WR watches, Proxima. I reckon all of those watches come out of the same factory. They're different mushroom brands from the same factory. That is no bad thing, by the way, because I think that factory makes some fantastic watches. I've reviewed a couple of San Martins on the past. I mean, very, very positive about them. And indeed, this one is no different. It's a very, very well manufactured watch. So, proper little flight case here. You get a 2-year warranty, signed, stamped and dated. Now they have included a 2-piece bond nylon. I reckon it would work with the black dial. I don't think it works at all with the blue dial, so I'm not even going to show you it. But hey, it's better than nothing, I suppose. And why have they included a bond nylon? Because, as mentioned, this watch is an Omega Clomage, specifically the Omega Seamaster 300, a truly stunning looking watch with a stunning price tag of around $6,000 US, so this CRONOS coming in at around 3% of that. The old save up and buy the original thing does not really apply. Not entirely identical though, you see quite different markings on the bezel, different handset, and there's texture on the dial here. Slightly different indexes around the dial as well, but yeah, there's no mistaking this is most certainly an Omega homage today. But that is no bad thing. It is a gorgeous looking watch in the first place, and I reckon this one, maybe even the black dial, is better looking than the blue. 41mm in diameter, but only 12.5mm thick, which is great considering the Seiko movement powering this. 47.5 lug to lug, but 20mm lug width. So decent sized watch, but bringing it back down a bit with 20mm lugs. There's some taper on there down to 18, back up to 20 at the clasp. Sized up for me, 2 links missing as shown. This one weighs in at 162 grams, so a decent sized watch with a decent amount of weight to it. All stainless steel construction, stainless steel bezel, stainless steel crown, and a nicely finished, if quite simply finished, stainless steel case. We have a screw down case back. Screw down crown, 200 meters of water resistance, and a nice bracelet, again mimicking the look of the SM300, high polished center link and a brushed outer link. These are push pins, but they're solid links, solid end links, and it is a machined clasp with 4 levels of micro adjust, but only that single double pusher, if you see what I mean. Single security, but double pusher to release it. Case finishing is really nice and sharp, certainly pretty good for $200. We have got a fine brush on the mid case there, transitioning with the aid of a little high polished chamfered edge to high polished upper lugs. So again, replicating the look of the original Omega, we go brush, polish, polish, brush, polish, mid link. Now unguarded vintage style crown, screw down as mentioned, high polish finish, but it is unsigned. So they do a sterile version, they also do this CRONOS branded version, but the only thing they branded really is is the dial. They have left the crown unbranded and they have left that bracelet clasp unbranded. I would much rather they had gone one way or the other with this one. I think this is kind of half and half, doesn't really do the watch any favours. It is a nice coin edge bezel with a very, very nice ceramic insert. Really looks good, fits flush, no sharp edges there at all, and is fully loomed, as I'll show you in a second. Now there is a piece of, I would say, box domed sapphire crystal just protruding slightly from the bezel insert there. Doesn't look like the doming's concentric though, so you do get that vintage style distortion, which is all rather pleasant. And it is a good action on the bezel, 120 click, unidirectional, quite a noticeable noise there, no click, no backplate, no bounce. Job is a good one. And I have been enjoying the bracelet. Nice smooth edges to all of these links. It does have the protruding mid link of the end link, taking this lug to lug effectively out to 52, but because there's a bit of downturn and because I think the watch is so slim, it wears rather nicely, as I'll show you in a second. Case back is screw on, 200 meters of water resistance as noted, and the usual spec sheet advertising the sapphire crystal and the NH35, but not containing any branding. Again, it's that semi-sterile thing I was talking about. All very nicely done though, and solid end links as noted. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen just about as many NH35s as I have by this point, but when you get one with a set of numbers like that, you can't complain, can you? Running bang on with a healthy amplitude and a minimal beat error. 24 dual hacking and hand winding, bi-directional winding automatic by Seiko, running at 21,600 vibrations per hour. Really, that is the only complaint that you could level at this movement. It's 3 Hz rather than 4 Hz, so you don't get that smooth 8 ticks per second of the second hand. You get a mere 6 ticks, but hey, $200, running within cost specs, no complaints from me today. And in reality, I'm not sure how many people will notice the difference between a 3 Hz and a 4 Hz movement. On their wrist, you would have to be staring pretty intently at that second hand to notice the number of ticks in comparison to a high beat auto. Now, sandwich dial, as you can see there, I haven't seen a sandwich dial for less than $300, let alone less than $200, and a fairly textured dial as well. That is unique to the CRONOS, shall we say. I don't think that's a carryover from the original Omega. Whether it's a positive or a negative, I will leave that to you. So some similarities to the Omega, the Arabics at 3, 6 and 9. They would normally be an Arabic at 12 underneath a smaller triangle on the original watch. They have, in their infinite wisdom, used a larger triangle and slapped that CRONOS logo under the index at 12. Automatic 200 meters, 660 feet, just printed on above the index at 6. Recessed hour markers all the way round. Big triangle at 12 as noted, small triangles at 3, 6 and 9, and baton indexes everywhere else. And there's plenty of lume on this watch, including that bezel insert. Very, very impressive, as I said during the intro. I reckon it is C3, it's got that bright green glow. If I crank the speed up, you'll see that, as always, the ceramic insert is the first thing to go, followed by the sandwich, but those hands hang on gamely. I mean, we're not talking Seiko standard here, but for $200, definitely one of the most impressive lume videos that I've seen. And the handset, another point of differentiation between this one and the Omega. They haven't gone for the broad arrow hour hand, they have just gone for a kind of fence post come sword hour and minute hand, but they are well proportioned. The hour hand pushing out to the markers and the minute hand pushing out to that minute track. I do like the rather attractive arrowhead second hand though. A nice touch. Overall it looks pretty good, but nil point for originality to CRONOS. Most of the credit has to go to Omega as discussed. And on wrist, I think it looks good and it wears very nicely. It certainly doesn't look like a $200 watch. I think the borrowing of the design is partly responsible for that, as is that rich and lustrous sheen from that ceramic bezel insert. It really is a good one, and the number of high polished surfaces, including those lug uppers and the mid links. You can tell it's not a 40, it does have a bit more heft to it, but it's nicely balanced. Good comfortable bracelet. I have enjoyed wearing this one over the last month or so. And the handset may not be as pure Omega as a number of other elements, but they have certainly got the proportions, they've got the dimensions of it right. Nice, clean, legible look, which is what you want from a dive watch. Outside, you can see what I mean about the doming of that sapphire. You do get a bit more distortion than you generally get from a piece of double domed, but that's no bad thing. I think it suits the look of the watch overall. On wrist, there's a bit of curvature to the mid case. The lugs do point down. Extended mid link of the end link as noted, but it wears well on me. I think as long as you've got an average size wrist or above, you're going to have no problems wearing this one. But homage aside, do you want to wear this one? I made most of my moans and niggles clear from the very beginning today. I think they've kind of gone neither fish nor fowl with this semi-sterile, semi-branded look here. I would love to have seen them put something on the crown, on the clasp and on the case back. Even if that led to a slight price increase, I would be okay with that. I think the sterile one where they have deleted the logo just looks odd. It looks like there's a logo missing from the top of the dial, which in effect there is. But the CRONOS branded one, oh, I'm not all that comfortable with that logo. Chinese companies should really consult marketing companies if they want a bit of help with their branding. I believe San Martin, LGY, CRONOS, whatever you want to call them, consulted another YouTube channel, and this is what they ended up with. I'm not necessarily opposed to the stylized hourglass. Perhaps that's the logo that they should have put on the crown, the case back, the clasp, and elsewhere. But that CRONOS script, oh man, that looks so dated. Reminds me of the font they used for the Conan the Barbarian movies of the early 1980s. It certainly has a whiff of 40 years ago about it, which is not really what you want to see when you look down at your wrist, I don't think. But if you like the font, if you're into oldie English, or you are prepared to go for one of the fully sterile versions, this is definitely one of the best $200 watches that I have looked at on the channel so far. They certainly know how to make a good watch. LGY, San Martin, Lugio, CRONOS, whatever you want to call them. No shake, no rattle from these end links. The whole thing has a feeling of solidity about it, rarely found at the price. $200, you're probably only $30 short of an Orient Komatsu, but the Orient doesn't have that lovely ceramic bezel insert. It doesn't have solid links. It doesn't have a bracelet. It doesn't feel nearly as solidly put together as this one. I reckon a couple of tweaks, perhaps they ought to pay someone rather than doing their branding on the cheap, and this would go from an almost amazing watch to a genuinely amazing watch for the money. So there you have it, the CRONOS SM300, definitely one of the best $200 watches that I have looked at on the channel, without a doubt. That far away from being absolutely fantastic if you're okay with the fact that it is based on an Omega. I'm okay with that. I think this is a very well made, very well thought out watch. It just needs a couple of tweaks to take it to the next level. Thank you for watching. I will see you in a future video.